Welcome back. We're doing an episode 2. I am going to try and continue this, so welcome back to Nerd Cave Chat, episode 2 here on Mike's Nerd Cave. Today's episode, I wanted to talk with the whole conversation around the PS5 Pro being announced, being $700. There's a lot of people coming out and being like, hey, if you're looking at consoles and they're getting this expensive, just buy a PC. What's the point? Just get a PC. They're getting expensive anyway. Just go all the way in. You can do so much more. I don't necessarily think that's wrong, but I don't necessarily think that's all that goes into it. I think just looking at the price up front and not thinking about all the other little things that differentiate like a PC gaming setup and comparing it to the console space. What I want to do today is just break down those differences outside of the whole price point thing. Let's look at what makes console and PC different and try and figure out what's right for most people. I just want to preface all this and say I'm not really going to talk about the handhelds or any legacy stuff. I'm mostly right now comparing the major consoles, current gen consoles, and I'm going to leave Switch out for now because Switch 2 is on the horizon. I think that's going to be more applicable. So like the Xbox Series and the PS5 versus a PC setup. I think those are the most comparable. One of the first points I want to talk about is just like, how do you play your games? Me personally, I do have a PC setup here. I also have a PS5 and a Series X downstairs. My fiance mostly plays on the Series X. I'm more apt to play on the PS5 for different things. And there's a lot of pros and cons to both. I think something a lot of people don't realize when they first start looking at like, oh, maybe I should just upgrade to a PC setup is you got to think about where you want to be at the end of the day. If you have a job where all you do is sit at a computer for 8 hours a day and then you come home, or even worse, you work from home all day and have to sit at a computer, do you really want to sit at a computer more at the end of the day? I do love playing on my PC, but I have to be honest, I love it a lot less than I used to. I work a job that has me sitting at this desk. Well, sitting or standing, I can do both. I actually love the standing desk. But that aside, sitting at this desk for at least 8 hours every day. There's so many days I just don't want to be here any longer than that. I have no desire to play games on this PC because I don't want to be right here anymore. I've been here all day. The console space, if I do want to still play games, gets me away from that. And not everyone's this way. Some people have their console at their desk. I get it. But generally, people have the console hooked up to a TV. They're sitting on a couch or a bed. It's a lot more of a relaxed environment where most people have their PC on a desk. And I know there's exceptions to that as well. I'm just going with the generalizations here. And when you think about how do I play my games, or how do I want to play my games at the end of the day, on the weekends, taking a break from everything, where do you want to put yourself? Where do you want to be? The second point I wanted to bring up with all of this is the technical side of things. And I do truly think that PCs and these high-end consoles are getting closer every single year, especially with the architecture in the background. It's making it a lot easier for companies to port games, I think. But power-wise, how they work, all of that, it's getting so much closer. You can get an Xbox Series X or S. You have an internet browser on there. You can run like Microsoft Office or Google apps. There's people now in college, like freshman year, who will pick up an Xbox Series S so they can game and just type up docs if they're in their dorm room on Google Docs because it has the internet browser. It's like a cheap little desktop computer in some ways. Yes, you're stuck with what you have on the console. If a game runs a certain way, it might have one or two different modes that you can switch to between performance and quality, but for the most part, you're stuck with what you get. On the PC side of things, you get a lot of options. But with that said, sometimes getting a game to run the way you want it to, or look the way you want it to, can take a lot of tinkering. And like, not everyone wants to tinker. It comes back to the same thing of your time is money. And some people love tinkering. Some people want to get home at the end of the day, tinker for 10 minutes with a game, that's fun for them to get it running optimally, because it is going to look better than on most consoles if you tinker and you do that. But not everyone wants to do that. Some people want to get home and just crash, just play the game, turn their brain off. Gaming for me has definitely become one of those things where it's a time for me to like turn my brain off from the problems of daily life and immerse myself in something. And if it takes 20 minutes to get into that thing, sometimes it can hinder the fun side and it almost makes you not even want to play. I feel like so far this video is kind of leaning towards the console thing, and I think that's my own experience over the last year because, like I said, I work at a desk mostly, but not all of our points are going to lean that way. I'm just saying, think about these things, because the argument right now is jump into PC gaming. Consoles are getting so expensive anyway. So just think about this stuff before you go out and you start investing money into either one. Another one I want to talk about is the style of games. And this one, I think it depends on what you like. If you're really into multiplayer games, I'm going to be honest, I think PC is the way to go. I think when it comes just straight down to a lot of multiplayer games, trying out a ton of different multiplayer games, there's a lot more free-to-play games on PC that are multiplayer. I think Discord, even though it's on the consoles now, it's not quite as good as it is on PC. There's still a lot more features when you're on PC for using Discord. You have Steam, which is just a great place to connect with friends as well. You have all of these other features that allow you to connect more with people. Usually the highest level of play in those multiplayer games, if you're truly passionate about getting better at them, is on the PC. And PC does have good compatibility. If you have friends on consoles and they are cross-play multiplayer games, you're going to be able to play with those people as well. I truly think PC has the better multiplayer experience, but if all you're looking for are those big single-player epic games, I kind of lean towards console, especially, again, going back to if all you want to do is get home, chill on the couch, and play a game like God of War or like Spider-Man 2. I don't think you can beat the big screen, the controller, and the couch. It's so comfortable. It's just refreshing. It's friendly, and you can turn your brain off, and that's what so much of this is about. I want people to remember, this hobby is about having a good time and turning your brain off. And if you just get caught up in all the conversation about the price points and the what's the best and what game is on which system and which system has the best features, you're going to end up losing sight of the most important part, which is just having fun. Something else I think that's really important is cost of ownership. And one of the things that goes into the cost of ownership is peripherals for both. Now with something like a PlayStation or an Xbox, you're going to get a controller in the box with it. Right off the bat, that's a savings that you don't get unless you're buying like a pre-built PC. I keep looking over because I'm looking at my peripherals and everything with my computer here. But like, if you're shopping for a PC and you're trying to build it yourself, you're most likely not initially factoring in the cost of the keyboard, the mouse, the headset, any of that stuff. Where with a PlayStation or an Xbox, all you really need to think about getting afterward is if you're going to play multiplayer games, or you're going to need to play games with headphones on because of a significant other trying to sleep or something like that, you might want to invest in a nice headset so you can really enjoy those games. But earbuds also work for both places as well, until you really get into more intense multiplayer games and whatnot. But when it comes to a nice keyboard and a nice mouse, a lot of times if you're buying a pre-built, you're not getting something that's going to be good for gaming long term. If you're building your own, you have to factor in those costs. If you're thinking headset, keyboard, and mouse, probably $150 roughly that you want to set aside to get something good that's going to last you a while. Then long-term cost of ownership. With a console, you can't upgrade it. You're stuck. And it comes with positives and negatives. The positives, if a game comes out like we talked about, it's just going to run. Or maybe not as well as on PC, but it needs to run to a certain standard. You don't have to think, am I going to need to upgrade this thing? A PC, you might need to upgrade something. We were just talking about that. And you got to think about those costs. So let's say you need a new GPU or a new CPU or an extra stick of RAM. Those costs can be anywhere from $30 for a stick of RAM, up to $300-400 for a graphics card upgrade. Now, if you're constantly upgrading your PC, maybe you can do a part here or there, and long term it saves you money. But what people don't talk about enough with that is when it comes to upgrading something like a CPU, generally, you only got a couple of generations of CPU that work on the same motherboard platform before you have to upgrade your whole platform. And lately, when those platforms upgrade, they also upgrade the type of SSD you can run in there. And, well, if you're spending $200 on a brand new motherboard, you're going to want to get a faster SSD. And you're going to want to get a good CPU to go with it. And it just it can spiral out of control. And next thing you know, that PC that you got 2 or 3 years ago, you decided it needs an upgrade to run this game a little bit better. And all of a sudden, you've spent another $800-900 on that computer. Now that we've thought about like the cost of everything, there's a couple more points left I just want to hit real quick. First off is exclusives. We've already talked about this a little bit and how more exclusives every year are coming to PC that were only available on either PlayStation or Xbox. Xbox at this point has fully gone PC. Everything they release is also available on PC. PlayStation, it seems like they're doing this method of a year or two later, they're going to release it on PC for hopefully a little extra money. It seems like that strategy is actually going really well for them. All those big single-player blockbuster games coming over to PC a couple years later. The thing is, if you are on PC, you have so many games at your fingertips, and you probably have a big enough backlog that who cares if you're not playing those games day one when they come out. If they're really as good as everyone says they are, and then it comes out a year and a half later for $10 to $20 less on PC, you get to save a little bit of money, and you get to play the PC version of the game, which usually has a little bit more you can tweak settings-wise to really get maximum performance out of the game. That's, I think, a pretty good argument for PC in this case, for saving a little bit of money on the game side of things. Exclusives, like I said, they're not really a big deal unless you're a die-hard PlayStation fan and you have to play those PlayStation games day one. You can really go either direction and have a good time. All the third-party stuff is pretty much everywhere. There is a caveat, it's Nintendo, and I know I said we'd talk about that later, but my last point is the handheld market. And it's not just Nintendo Switch. It's Steam Deck, and it's all the handheld Windows PCs that have been coming out. And I think they are the thing that is throwing a little bit of a wrench in this overall argument. You now have the ROG LIX that is comparable to the Steam Deck OLED and the Nintendo Switch in battery life. All of those devices can get that 2 to 5 hour, I think the Switch can go a little bit more, but that 2 to 5 hour battery life, which is pretty nice on a handheld. You're usually not going to be away from a wall outlet for more than that, like 4 or 5 hour mark. And the games that these things can play it's really incredible to see in handheld. I mean, 20 years ago, I wouldn't have even thought this was possible. So it's really crazy to see. I love it. I love handheld gaming. I'm a big fan of the Switch. I'm a big fan of my Steam Deck. I haven't tried any of the Windows handhelds out. I've heard the good and the bad. It sounds like you really have to want to tinker with them if you plan to get the most out of them. I am excited for the future of this, though, and the reason I think it's going to throw a wrench into it sooner or later is the more Steam is willing to open up down the road when it comes to whether it's a Steam Deck 2 or Steam machines or licensing out Steam OS, it's going to allow the PC and console marketplace to merge even more. You're going to have devices, and I know Steam tried this I think it was 10, 11 years ago, tried to do Steam machines. And I don't think the market was quite ready for it, didn't know what it was. But now that people know what Steam Decks are, they know what Steam OS is, you could sell a $300-400 box at the store that says this runs Steam OS, you can put it under your TV and it's going to compete with the PlayStation. People are going to get excited about that because you can still run Discord and everything else on Steam OS through Linux, and it runs well. So if you have a PC at your fingertips that you can plug into a TV, especially if they box either a controller or a nice wireless keyboard and mouse with it, you know they're going to be trying to sell that as a comfortable living room device. The handheld side of things, with Windows, I'm also excited because I'm really hoping Windows starts to optimize everything better for touch and for gaming. I think the Xbox launcher on PC is pitiful. It's an absolute shame how awful it feels to use in comparison to something like Steam or even Epic, which is not saying a lot. I don't know why. Every time I use that Xbox launcher or the Xbox game bar, any of those things, it just feels slow. It feels clunky. How? They now have Activision Blizzard. They gotta get the guys who run Battle.net on that Xbox launcher. It seems like all they did was go for look and try and make it match Windows without having good functionality. So that's a big thing, and I'm really hoping that these Windows handhelds are going to push Microsoft into learning how to optimize for gaming and for touchscreens and really make those devices a lot better, because I think if that happens, those devices become even more appealing. I'm rambling on a little bit about this whole handheld side of things, and that's just because I think that that's the last place. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I'm just thinking that's, I guess, the third place you could look, or the third comparison right now between console and PC is, do you like to lay in your bed and play the newest games? Do you like to sit in a chair and play the newest games? Do you have kids who are taking up the TV? Handheld might be the way to go. And as these things get better over the next couple of years, I would say hold off right now. I think there's going to be a big surge with the new AMD chips coming out. Probably early 2025 of handheld PCs being announced. They're going to be blowing what we have right now out of the water. I guess this was just my little talk I wanted to have today about the whole landscape of people are just shouting from the rooftops right now. Consoles are too expensive. Why don't you build a PC? Look at the PS5 Pro. It's so expensive. Look what you could get on the PC side of things. And it's, yeah, true. But think about the other things. Think about the reasons you play. Think about what you enjoy playing, how you enjoy playing, before you make either of those investments. Step back and think about what you really want, or do you even need the newest thing? But yeah, that's that's my 2 cents with all of this. I hope you guys who are here enjoy the little rambling I'm doing, and I'm excited to keep working on this. Just get back into talking to the camera. Get back into kind of building out my little set. It's going to be back downstairs again, probably, eventually. Back in the cave, and yeah. Can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Peace.